It's been a really bad month for British comedy. 4 weeks ago, we had Comic Relief generate its lowest donation total ever. And then a week later, we had the rather lukewarm launch of SNL UK over on Sky One. Britain used to make comedy that felt inherently British.
Eat knuckle, Fritz!
It was the greatest in the world, actually. It was something we've been known for forever, our sense of humour.
I'm free!
Something we've been exporting for, I don't even know how long. It was comedy that felt confident, that felt like it came from somewhere.
Don't tell him, Pike!
Meant something. And it wasn't afraid of its own voice. And I think we need to talk about what happened to that. So, Comic Relief, around £30 million raised on the night, which, don't get me wrong, to the likes of me and you, is a great deal of money. And I wouldn't say no to 30 quid, let alone 30 million. But when you consider that this event used to make well in excess of 100 to sort of 150 million per event per year, 30 million is pretty bad, isn't it? I can't find any official number for viewership, but I've read on Facebook from an account called Telemix, which I've never heard of. They claim that Comic Relief 2026 drew just 2 million viewers on BBC One. That sounds like a lot to me. And when you look at the BBC's coverage, they don't really mention anywhere about viewership, which, if it was big, if it was if it was a lot of people watching, you can guarantee that they'd be talking about it. But obviously people in the comments for this video will say, well, we're living through a cost of living crisis and people don't have the money to spend. And yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, people feel like they're being robbed by the government via tax. They feel like they're being robbed at the petrol pump right now because of the Iran thing. And, the general cost of food and everything is just more expensive, and it seems to get more and more expensive each day. That's definitely going to be a big factor in this, but I don't think finances are the sole reason why people didn't donate. I think, obviously, politics has got something to do with it, and the general discontentment and resentment that the British public are facing and feeling. And I think actually it's a clear indication that things like Comic Relief, those big shared experiences, those big cultural events, they seem to be a thing of the past, don't they? They seem to be a thing from the past. And that's not a good thing, in my opinion. That's a real shame. Because there was a time when, things like Comic Relief, you simply knew that it was on, and everybody knew it was on, and it felt unavoidable in the best possible way. As a kid growing up in Great Britain, Red Nose Day, Mufti Days and stuff, they were brilliant. Inevitably, somebody was going to end up in a bathtub of beans. I don't know why. It was always beans. And it felt like something that the majority of people in the country wanted to take part in. It was a reminder that Britain could actually come together around something special and have a bit of a laugh, a bit like it's a knockout. But these days, I didn't find out it was on until about 3 or 4 days after it had aired, when someone asked me if I'd watched any of the coverage, and I said, nah. I don't watch traditional media in the traditional way, I should say. I don't watch broadcast TV like that anymore. I watch, things on Netflix or Catch Up or YouTube or whatever. And so I'm not aware if it was being properly advertised across the BBC and its platforms, but I certainly wasn't aware it was happening. And so I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And that in itself is an indicator to me that the BBC itself is just a cultural dinosaur now. It doesn't have that same footing that it did even 5 years ago. It's past, it's present with what's going on with one of their presenters at the minute. It's just not relevant anymore. It's not doing good things anymore, which is sad. But you might argue, well, just because Comic Relief didn't do well and the BBC is dead or dying, well, that doesn't mean British comedy is dead. And to that I would say, well, a week later, SNL UK landed on Sky One. 226 viewers for episode 1, remembering it's a Saturday night when, its target audience is probably out doing other things. And remembering that Sky is a paid for subscription service. Not everybody is a subscriber to Sky, and so therefore there's a subscriber ceiling. They can't, physically or whatever broadcast to people who aren't subscribers to Sky or subscribers to packages that allow you to watch Sky One. So there's obviously a limited or a finite amount of people that can watch it legally, at least. But when you take into consideration the SNL's brand, which is, it's been a launchpad for so many incredible acts over the years. To name a few: Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Chevy Chase, Eddie Murphy, Jim Brewer, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Shane Gillis, most recently. And then, of course, you've got one of the greatest comics of all time, Norm Macdonald. We miss you, Norm. Rest in peace. Of course, there was curiosity to see how this would translate. Would an improv sketch show work for a British audience? I didn't think it would. And so out of curiosity alone, I tuned in, and so did 225,000 others. And it was god-awful. It was absolutely terrible. It wasn't funny in the slightest. The only thing I can remember from the one episode I watched, which was the very first one, was the Diana David Attenborough sketch. I can't remember what the sketch was about. I think it was about some kind of fantasy celebrity party or something. The premise didn't work at all. The only thing that the sketch did was the lad that in the dress looked a bit like her, and he nailed her mannerisms. He got the coyness and the shyness right. But it wasn't funny. There was nothing funny about it. And, if you loved it, fair play to you. If that's the kind of thing that floats your boat, good for you. But I don't think I'm alone when I say it was really awful. I think the audience quickly reflected that when you look at the numbers. So the premiere episode, hosted by Tina Fey, attracted 226,000 viewers. That was the episode I watched, of course. 205,000 the subsequent week. It lost 21,000 viewers in 7 days. And last week's episode, 130,000. What's that? I don't even know what percentage that is. 40-ish% drop in audience share in 3 episodes. That to me reveals what we all knew to be the case anyway. This was a series that was doomed to fail. Fail in some regards, because I was under the impression going in that SNL's viewership was migrating onto YouTube. I don't know anyone that watches SNL as a broadcasted show, but I know a fair few people that watch the skits and the sketches. I don't understand it myself because I haven't found SNL funny for a very, very long time. And this SNL UK, I didn't find funny at all. So people do watch SNL, but they watch it on YouTube, which leads me to think that Sky knew that going in. Surely they knew that SNL. Is their viewership going down? Let me Google it. So, according to Late Nighter, SNL scores solid ratings with Jack Black, up 10% in demo. Saturday Night Live's April 4th episode drew an average of 4.5 million total viewers, with over 1 million viewers in the 18 to 49. 18 to 49? Is that a bracket now? It just leads me to believe that Sky knew that SNL is more of an online, it's more of a socials brand now. So to bring that to their platform, which is a paid-for platform, which means their audience numbers are going to be finite. Who did they think they were going to attract with this show? Because it felt extremely London-centric as well. I don't live in London. I've never lived in London, although I've worked in London a lot. And I don't mind London, but it's not for me. And so I didn't really get a lot of the sort of Gen Z or Gen Z references because I'm old, you know what I mean? But I would wonder how many Sky subscribers are Gen Z or Gen Z anyway. How many London Eds of a Gen Z age are in on a Saturday night, and how many of them are going to be watching Sky One if they're in. I don't know. It felt quite, I mean, maybe because it was Tina Fey, it felt quite female-centric, which of course it does because it's modern media. So fine, maybe it's for sort of millennial women who I imagine probably do have Sky or are more likely to. So maybe they think that's their target audience. But clearly the audience is just not there for their broadcasted show. I had a little look on the SNL UK YouTube channel. Now, apparently they've got 105,000 subscribers, which when you look at their most recent viewership numbers, 130,000, it looks like they've kind of hit their ceiling. Who knows? I think they've still got a fair few episodes to come. And you look at the numbers they've got. I mean, there's one there with over 500,000 views from 4 days ago, so that would almost certainly be the last episode that aired, the one that's got, the lowest viewing on the broadcast media. You've got 1 million views, 1.6 million views, 2.6 million views on the monologues and a couple of sketches. So it's got its audience, but it looks like it's clearly an online audience rather than a broadcast media audience. Maybe Sky can see the writing on the wall and they can see, well, TV, broadcast media, its days are numbered, so we need to get out. Because obviously the BBC announced not too long ago that they're going to make content specifically for YouTube now, and the TV license is going to apply to anyone that watches YouTube, apparently. So maybe they're thinking, well, SNL does well on socials, we'll buy that trademark or whatever, and we'll launch our online presence with that, or secure it somehow with that. But aren't they a television broadcaster? British comedy, British culture is in freefall, if you ask me. It's just not good. And then I look back at things that I love from the past, things like Blackadder, and I think, what does Blackadder have? It's not necessarily a fair comparison, because obviously a sketch show is different to an improv show, is different to stand-up, is different to sitcom. So yeah, okay, you have to kind of go with me a little bit on this, but I think the thing that traditional media had, traditional comedy had, was that it was rooted in cultural confidence and almost tradition as well. And Blackadder Goes Forth is, I think, the pinnacle of that. And you think about, like, what did Blackadder have that modern comedy doesn't? I think when you look back, you look at what they had deeply cultural, historical, and societal roots and ties to the audience.
Together we'll fight for king and country and be sucking sausages in Berlin by tea time.
And they weren't afraid to hold up a mirror to society and tell you, this is how absurd we are.
A wibble.
Let's laugh together. And the audience did. Whereas these days, they just don't say anything at all. It must be the hardest thing in the world to enter a comedy writer's room in the UK in 2026. I don't envy anybody. But sadly, until we in Britain rediscover that cultural confidence that we used to hold so dear, until we rediscover that cultural weighting that gives us the ability to mock everything, laugh at anything, point the finger at any aspect of society, high, low, left, right, until we start really trusting our distinctive voice and character over a safe and sterile format, I suspect we're going to keep getting that dull, meaningless, and pointless pseudo-comedy that can't say anything, can't entertain anyone, and yet somehow still keeps getting commissioned.